Wanna talk? So let's talk. Yeah. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk, you wanna talk. So let's
I didn't go to jail today, cause I live by the sword, and died by the sword. The police was looking for me, I'ma hide by a broad, shooting stars in my pocket. Bitch sitting on my rocket, I'm wired out the socket. But still shocking, everybody wanna tell me what I need.
Folks, you may have seen that video. It's a rapper whose name is Crapper. I don't know what his name is, don't care. But he's a rich guy who did a video about America where he said things about America that are negative and was stomping on the United States flag. Some people are outraged. Some people defend it. I only say it because he's a minority and because it's the United States flag, most people say you can't criticize. But if that were me, and by the way, I have no talent, and I was stomping on a picture of Barack Obama, they would try and come up with a federal crime that I committed. Alan, am I close?
Well, Stan, you're close, but I guess I, in this case, would go farther, because where on earth do people get off pretending that respect for the flag and everything it stands for is some kind of racial thing? I don't care what this guy looks like. My father risked his life year after year after year in the Second World War and in Korea and in Vietnam. He was wounded several times, near unto death on one of those occasions, and so forth. And I had a brother in the military. All of these things gone. We're black folks, and there were many going back all the way to the very beginning of this country who fought for the things this country stands for and died for the things this country has helped to vindicate on the pages of human history. And very often, Stan, in the midst of those battles, especially in the 20th century, that flag he was stomping on represented, to the dying eyes, to the eyes of our soldiers as the life went out of them, it represented that which justified and in some sense validated their heroism and their sacrifice that we must never forget. It just amazes me now. I think some things that are going on in this country, Stan, are like a bad smell that we have sadly gotten used to. And this kind of utter abandonment of our reverence, and I use the word advisedly, for these things that stand for the heart and the courage and the spiritual commitment of previous generations, I think it's a disgrace. There would have been a time, you know, when the outrage over that episode wouldn't be a debate in this country. It would just be an outrage spilling into the newspapers and the editorial columns and the streets. What's happened to us? What is wrong with us? And don't tell me that it's just about the flag, because I'll tell you, things have been going on now. From the abuses at the IRS, to the slaughter of American public officials in Benghazi, to the lying and deceit that accompanied all of that. These things have been going on. The kowtowing to our enemies, the destroying of our national security, the demoralization of our forces. These are things that clearly destroy and undermine our Constitution. And our people are just kind of blasé, you know, oh, well, that's terrible. Yeah, that's bad. We need to, you know, get behind another Republican liar and so forth. No, we don't. We need to get behind the things that our previous generations died for. We need to get behind the understanding that they lived for and help to hand on to us, which we're now allowing to be destroyed by a little gaggle of oligarchs who don't respect anything but money and their own power. Are we like that now, Stan?
I'm
That's
not.
what this is all about. This is what this guy represents. He makes his money spitting on America and stomping on the things that Americans have stood and died for. And because of their courage, things that have inspired decent people all around the world. And we're all complacent and we're all ready to go on with business as usual. I think it's time to bring business as usual to an end. And one way that we could do it is we could insist that the whole business of this government needs to grind to a halt while they get to the bottom of these betrayals. And Boehner and his buddies are refusing to do it. We need to find a way to kick them out.
Again, you're not going to get any argument from this particular panel. I wanted to bring that up because I believe it is outrageous, and I don't care the particular complexion of this guy. If I see someone stomping on the flag, I'm going to assume they're attacking me, and I'm going to slap the crap out of them. Now, some people don't like it, some do. I don't care. I think that what we need to get to in this country is the point that we understand there are people on the left and people on the so-called right that think that there is no right or wrong. There's just what you can get away with or what you can technically justify. We need to get back to right and wrong. I think we need to thin America's ranks. We need to get rid of some folks, however we need to do that. That's my opinion. I'm not suggesting go out and hurt anybody, but I'm going to tell you something. Obama, don't cross the street in front of me. I got a condom on my bumper. All right, let's go to the marriage rates.
Well, Stan, we took God and the Ten Commandments out of our schools, and this is what we're left with.
Exactly, and by design, they wanted this. They studied this back in the 50s. They knew exactly what would happen when they took out morality, they took out right and wrong, they took out God. That's part of the design.
Stan,
these are bad people.
They are, Stan, but I guess what always crosses my mind, though, and I guess it's what I'm really most seriously dedicated to right now. We're not going to restore the principles of America and the Constitution and the things that we revere if we refuse to make use of them. Okay? One of the things our founders worked hard to do was to establish a constitutional system that would offer people of courage and faith who had the conviction to act the means whereby they could effectively act without having to destroy the country and without having to resort to violence and so forth. And I think that we should watch and be comfortable. And I say this, Stan, because there are a lot of people I meet, they still wear the GOP label, and they still go along with all this garbage, and they'll nod their heads and say, well, yeah, Alan, you're right, but, you know, look at how this is so much worse and all of this. And I'm thinking to myself, no, first thing you do, if you want to get the job done, is you make sure your instrument you've got to use to do it is capable of doing the job. And the Republican Party is not capable of doing the job of restoring this country. Its leaders are not committed. Its financial backers are corrupt and destructive. And they won't let anything happen in that party's ranks that will actually turn this situation around. Wake up! And before I start talking about how I'm going to go after this and go after that, why don't we use the constitutional means that are available? Why don't we insist and demand, even if we have to spill into the streets to make the demand? That's the fire I'd like to see lit under the Republican Party. It's time that they stopped business as usual, that they impeached Obama and Holder and every official responsible for the lies and the corruption and the destruction of our national strength. And they show well, and don't give me the excuse, oh, we can't get them removed in the Senate. Your job in the first place is to get us the facts and get us riled up about them. And then take that to the people in the next election and let them decide. They don't have any confidence in the people. And I'll go further than that. I think a lot of these elitist-minded folks now don't want to appeal to the people, don't want to recognize that they are the real arbiters of power, because that would interfere with their self-serving ambitions. So Stan, I think we have to be careful here. I'm not going to encourage anybody to think that we have to, sort of start deciding who we're going to go out and eliminate and stuff. The Constitution gives us the ability to eliminate the real culprits by constitutional means. And we need to demand that those instruments be used. And if we don't, vigorously demand it, they're not going to be used right now. So that's what I'd like to see, Stan, because one of the first things we need to do is we need to put people in place who will use the Constitution to call these folks responsible for the high crimes and misdemeanors that are destroying us to account.
Again, we're not disagreeing on that. That point's been made and made well. There's a story about a lady who, I think she's a runner. Well, Chief, tell us the story.
This about the carjacking?
Yeah.
Okay, a lady was coming back to her vehicle from some shopping. She put her kids in the car, had them belted in. She belted herself and drove away, and then discovered that a carjacker had hidden himself in the car and demanded she drive to an ATM and get him some money. And so she turned the car in a wrong direction that he did not want her to go in, attempted to call 911 on her cell phone. He realized that. He crawled into the front seat, pulled a knife out, attempted to attack her with a knife. So then she proceeded to drive her car into a telephone pole. She knew she was belted in, her kids were belted in. She thought maybe she could get this guy to fly through the windshield. So she hit this telephone pole. It didn't quite work. He attacked her with the knife. She punched him in the face. She took his knife away. He bit her in the hand. He fled from the vehicle. So then she decided she can't let him get away because he might do this to somebody else. So she ran over him.
Twice. I like it. Now, see, Dr. Keys, you're worried about, and should be, and we all need to focus on the phony Trojan horses we have in the Republican Party. And of course, they're not even Trojan horses, they're just horses' asses in the Democrat Party. But we got a lot of bad people out there that are hurting people, and it's time we do like this lady did. I don't know this lady at all, but I'm a big fan of hers now. The lowlifes, the scumbags that are taking advantage, that are populating our country, we need to do what we need to do. I'm not saying go out and attack anyone. You try and carjack me, you're going to die or I'm going to die. That's all there is to it.
Well, if she'd had a gun, it would have been a lot quicker. But
well, there's a sign at my house that says, and I've got 150-pound German Shepherds. Forget the dogs. Beware of the owner. You come in this house, you're going to get killed.
he's talking about his wife, by the way.
Well, Stan, I have to heartily agree with you on that point. I think that two things are true about life. First, that you're not going to be able to keep it if you don't defend it, and you're not going to be able to defend it if you're not willing to do the needful to those who are trying to destroy you. And I think one of the things that's being done, it's part of the demoralization of America, is the attack on the Second Amendment, but not only, by the way, in terms of legal thises and that's. They're basically trying to destroy the heart for self-defense and turn us into a people who actually are afraid of and loathe the instruments that we are supposed to use to defend ourselves. So I agree with you. That spirit, which recognizes that it is lawful before man and God to defend yourself against those who wish to destroy you and who have already destroyed the innocent lives of others. I think that needs to be something that we stop letting them do to our spirit, because that is one of the key things that I think they are seeking to do with their campaign of demoralization in this country.
Well, I think they're saying, and you're 100% right, and Chief can comment on this, but I'm on a roll here. A guy who I met, I didn't know him. You know how I met him? I bought a pizza from him. He worked 70 hours a week, owned a pizza shop in a middle-class neighborhood. Yesterday, a 27, 28-year-old man walked into his pizza shop and said, "Give me money." And he said, "No." And this 28-year-old pulled out a gun and shot him and killed him and took the $80 he had there. Now they know who did it. I don't know if they've caught him yet. I hope they kill him, not catch him. But this guy didn't believe, it turns out, in guns. This guy believed if there's a problem, you call the police. We have millions of Americans that believe in God, in rights, in marriage, in America, and they think that if they're good people, it'll be okay. Wrong! Stupid! You've got to be in a position to defend yourself. And our government today, the majority, want you to say, I will become a victim, a statistic, in order to make it better for the government. That's the reality. The police don't want you to have a gun in many cases because they don't want to be in danger. God bless them. The government doesn't want you to have a gun because they don't want to be in danger. Stan, protect yourself.
Stan, if these people were actually following our Constitution, and this is something that I have emphasized every time I've gone to Second Amendment rallies and other things, the Second Amendment has two parts to it. One is the part that has to do with keeping and bearing arms, and the other actually provides you with the logic that supports that necessity. And it refers to something called a well-regulated militia. And when you go back and look at the founding period, the colonies, the towns and villages, well-regulated didn't mean that you hand it off to the national government and they have a standing army and all this stuff, the lies that people try to tell about the Second Amendment. It did mean, however, that people in their communities, what would be the equivalent of our towns and villages and neighborhoods, in the communities where they lived, they felt obligated, and were obligated often by law, to work together to have a common understanding of their, not only their rights, but of their obligations and how they would carry them out if the community or individuals in the community are threatened. And I think that we ought to be demanding that that Second Amendment logic be implemented in policy, instead of accepting what I think is the vile betrayal of the common sense of our founders that is pursued by people who actually use militia as if it's a bad word because they want to remove it from the Constitution. They don't want people to remember that they should be on the front line of the defense of their families and of their communities and of the individuals in it. And final point, Stan, they don't want people to organize themselves at that very basic level where they live, so that none of us would have to feel that we were standing alone against the tidal wave of thuggery and gangsterism and violence that these elitist faction people are quietly unleashing against us. So I think we ought to, again there, instead of just praising the Constitution, I wish we would look at it carefully and demand that it be implemented according to its logic and according to its spirit.
Again, we're in agreement. The problem we have, Doctor, between you and I, is that you're too smart, you're too sophisticated, you're too accomplished, you're too learned, you're too much intellectually for many people in this country to begin to follow. Even though you're saying it right, I believe, maybe it's because I'm a more common person than the average, that we have forgotten that humanity went from chaos to civilization by acknowledging two things. One, there's rules inspired by God, but rules. And two, there are obligations. Now, you say it much better than I, but I'm just saying to you, I am so angry when I see people. I'll tell you a quick story, and then I'm going to go to the chief, and then we'll be out of time, but whatever. My wife weighs 100 pounds. We've been married 41 years. When I proposed to her, she said to me, and she's from the South, from a rural area. She said, if you want to marry me, I want you to know right now, I'm not going to accept any reason why our kids or I are hurt because you're not able to defend us. So if you're not willing to defend me and defend our family, don't ask me to marry you. That's pretty damn smart. That's pretty damn smart. And where she was from, where there were more cows than people, and it was the largest county in Georgia with the smallest population of any county in the whole state, you better be able to protect yourself because the next person wasn't real close. And I am so angry at people that have a PhD and don't know to wash their hands after they pee. They're stupid. And they and their families and their friends and their neighbors and they themselves end up hurt or dead because they're stupid. Chief? rescue me here.
I just want, no, I'm never, you just keep going. But I just want to say that we are the land of the free because of the brave. And I want to say thank you to all of our men and women in our armed forces, all of our veterans that have served faithfully and diligently, like Dr. Keith's father and my father who served in combat, and Major General Curry, who's on this program a lot. And the only reason in America that stupid little rappers can do what they do and make money and stomp on our American flag is because brave men and women in our military service are out there defending their right to do so. So all of our American military, I salute you and thank you and God bless you.
Well said. I second that motion. Alan, close it up.
Just one last thought. The person you were talking about there, Stan, I think you and I would agree on this fundamental point. If you're going to say no to somebody who's pointing a gun at you to rob you, then you had better be prepared to back it up. And the logic, the common sense of the Second Amendment in this country was to make sure every single American understood that. Courage isn't about being stupid. It's about being prepared. And frankly, I think that that's exactly what our leaders don't want us to be right now, because they're not interested in maintaining this way of life. But we need to be interested in it.
By the way, there's the story of a 72-year-old woman. 72, that's pretty damn old. Oh, just a minute, I'm almost that age. But 72-year-old woman who had a gun, some punk in his 20s broke in the house thinking an easy mark. She whipped out her trusty, whatever it was, revolver, shot him a couple of times, and had him begging, don't kill me. One problem, she let him live. She should have killed the son of a bitch. And we should kill every one of those bastards who would do what they would do. We need to eliminate the scum in this world, and those that want to kill you, kill them. Be done with it. Kill them. Dr. Keys, I don't put those words in your mouth, but...
No, the elitists want us to forget, and I use that word advisedly, the people who want to establish the rule of the few and leave out the regular folks. They want us to forget one of the first names that was given to firearms when they were invented. What was that, Stan? The firearms were the great equalizer.
Exactly.
And so it meant that idea that we're all created equal was going to be implemented by people who had used their God-given ingenuity to make sure that they could vindicate their equal claim to be respected in their rights and life and property.
Dr. Alan Keyes, as always, an inspiration, one of America's great treasures. Chief Steve, who has served this country both in the military and in law enforcement for many, many decades. I am proud to have you on this show, and I'm proud that we have millions of people that watch our work on a weekly, monthly basis, and for whatever impact we make, we thank God. Amen. For whatever God decides, we accept. And for those of you who defy God, kiss my Obama. Good night, America.